Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Monroe, your visual art teacher, and today I am going to show you how to make some super fun Yayoi Kusama inspired art. Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist, and she is known for her obsessive patterns and installation art. Now, before we start drawing a pumpkin, let's look at a pumpkin first. So pumpkins are organic shapes. They're cylindrical and spherical, but they are organic. Okay, so that means that they are unique, but they all have these fun little wedge shapes. So when we start to draw our pumpkin, I want you to start drawing one small piece instead of the whole, because it's going to give your pumpkin a lot more personality. So let's get started. So one of the shapes that I use a lot is you can just do your basic oval. You could give it a little more personality, make it maybe as one of those bottom heavy ones. It could be the opposite direction, right, boys and girls? You can have it going like that. Anyways, and let's see. I've seen some weird ones. I've seen ones that are more like a circle. I've seen ones that are a little squished in the middle. And what you're essentially doing, boys and girls, is you are turning all these shapes into puppy dogs, into African elephants, into things that have two really big ears on either side of their head. And it copies, so if this one curves, the shape. Now, it's also important to make sure these do not bump into each other. Okay, so there you have it. I have a bunch of pumpkins, but they're missing one key part, the stem. Now, don't make your stem itty bitty because Yayoi Kusama also has patterns in her stems. So we want to make sure that our pumpkin stems are big enough so that we can add some super fun patterns to them. Now that you have warmed up, I want you to get a piece of watercolor paper. Now, watercolor paper is thicker paper that will absorb a lot of water. And what I want you to do is on that watercolor paper, I want you to make some pumpkins that we just practiced. And in case you needed some, here they are. And here is my cat, Houdini, wanting to join us in the video. Okay, so as she comes down and knocks my camera, but we're going to take it, I'm going to start drawing my pumpkins. So they can go any direction. They can be straight up. They can be on the side. I don't want them to be too small, and I don't want them to be too big, but I want them to be unique. I turn them into pumpkins. Now I have 4. You could fit 3. Maybe I'll add another little itty bitty one. I don't want to make too many because I am going to do something really fun with the background. And here's my stem 1, stem 2, stem 3, 4, 5. You are going to take out your crayons now. Those of us who have used watercolor before know that watercolor and crayons do not get along. And I want you to take out the black crayon. Or just one color. I would prefer black. That's Miss Monroe's choice. But you are the artist. You get to decide. And what I want you to do is I want you to make dots. In the middle, you want to make big dots. On the sides, those big dots turn away from you. You want to color nice and neat. You want to color dark. Once those big dots are done, you're then going to go and you're going to add some medium dots on either side of those big dots. Now, boys and girls, it takes twice as many little dots as the big dots. And after the dots, you want to add some really teeny tiny dots. Now, boys and girls, we are not outlining our pumpkins. Repeat after me. I am not going to outline my pumpkins. Because Yayoi Kusama's use of pattern creates the sense of form, and we do not need to outline them because they're going to read as pumpkins after we paint it. I'm going to finish this pumpkin. I'm going to show you what to do on the stem. On the stem, we're going to do the opposite. What I want you to do, instead of coloring the dots, you're going to color behind the dots without trying a dot at all. Those of us who have read the dot. Okay, so there is my pumpkin. There are my dots. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause, I'm going to stop, I'm going to finish adding the rest of the dots. Whew. Okay, that was a lot of work. I need to roll my fingers on my wrists, wake up. Okay, I have added dots to all 5 pumpkins. What you're going to do now is you're going to pick any color but the color you use. So, for example, I could pick pink, I could pick teal, I could pick orange. I'm going to pick one color and I'm going to go with it. So I'm actually, boys and girls, I'm in a blue kind of mood. So I'm going to use the blue. And what I want you to do all around the background is you need to break the space. So from the pumpkins, they're going to make some lines. And they can intersect and cross over, but they can't go through the pumpkin. So I'm just breaking my space. All the way to the edge of the paper. If I hit a pumpkin, I can change direction. Otherwise, I'm going to go all the way to the edge. I'm just going over and over, breaking the space. I don't want to get much more lines than I have at that point because I'm going to do something else. So I'm going to start, I'm going to stop, I'm going to go through all the way to the edge. So I'm going to pause again and you'll see it once I have added all the color down. Okay, so boys and girls, I have now added dots to my pumpkins. I've put some lines in the background. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to activate my watercolor paint. Now, this is your basic watercolor palette that you can get in your store or the ones that you have in your classroom. The rule of watercolor is it needs water to activate. So you just take your basic watercolor brush, and if you just put a couple drops of water on the color you want to use, it will wake up. As you can see, it's already activating. Now, for the sake of this project, I would keep it simple. I would stick to 2 colors, max 3. This project, you are going to be using black. So that is one of your 2 colors. I'm going to use green and blue for my pumpkins. So my brush is wet. A wet brush has all the bristles that stick together. It takes a sip of the color and it should soak it up. And you can just apply that to your pumpkin. Now, if you put a good amount of crayon down, what's going to happen is that the color will not stick to where you colored the dots. You don't want to scrub with the brush. If the brush starts looking dry, give it another dip in the water. I'm just going to put the paint down. I'm actually going to have to take another dip in the water soon. My brush is starting to be dry. So dip in the water before I take a sip of the color. I'm not shoving the paintbrush into the paint because this is watercolor. I just want the water. And once again, once it starts to look like that, that means I need to take another sip. Watercolor's fun. There are more watercolor techniques out there that I will go over in another lesson, but for this one, we're just doing a basic wash on top. We don't want to put too much because even though this is watercolor paper, it's not expensive watercolor paper. So we don't want the water to buckle the paper. Okay, once all my pumpkins have been painted, I'm going to let them dry for a little bit. I dip my paint in the water and I soak up some black. Now, this is going to be the fun part. Black watercolor is really, really bossy. A little bit goes a long way. And that looks really cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to paint around those pumpkins. And this is when you really hope that you didn't get it too wet. You really want to put a wash down. Once again, say hello to my cat. She might be joining us in the video because she's jealous of all of your attention. Here she comes. She really likes it when I watercolor, as in she wants to take my paintbrush. I'm just going around, being very careful, and I'm painting, painting, painting. And I'm going to keep on painting until my entire background is covered with this black watercolor. It starts to look kind of psychedelic. There are other things you can do besides pumpkins. Tune in for some future ideas at another time. Anyways, this has been a blast. This is our Yayoi Kusama inspired art project, and I'm going to sign off before my cat decides she wants to be the real star of the show. Bye-bye.